Hey everyone, and welcome to the latest Washington, D.C. area real estate update. Now, if you're reading anything about real estate recently, you're probably like, what the heck is going on? Well, we're here to straighten it all out for you.
Let's start with the fact there are very few homes for sale at any given moment. Over the past 10 years, there have been somewhere in the ballpark of 10,000 homes for sale on any given day throughout the entire D.C. metro area. And currently, we have around 2,500. Pop quiz, what town do you think averaged the least number of detached homes for sale in February? Drum roll, please. The answer is Burke.
What?
Coming in at an average of 2 single-family homes for sale at any given moment in February. Crazy, I know. Now, as we've suggested before, the shortage of homes for sale has led to rising prices. Just 2 years ago, the average single-family home in DC sold for $580,000. Today, that same home sits at $700,000. You might think that this is because less people are putting their homes on the market. And yes, that is a contributing factor. But we are also on a relatively normal trend for the actual number of closings happening, and they're just selling very quickly. The median days for single-family homes, which historically is around 20, is now at 6. So quick math, there are a third of the number of homes for sale at any given moment.
Throughout the U.S., we've had an almost 20% increase in homes sold from the pre-pandemic levels. So the houses are selling and the demand is still so high due to low interest rates and COVID. But we're going to come back to that in a minute. In the fall, we were seeing some cooling off of the market. Last spring, at the height of the pandemic, properties were selling for an average of 104% of their asking price. But by late summer and fall, as the kids were going back to school, we saw it cool off for a bit, but only to shoot back up to 103% last month in February. The problem is that prices throughout the U.S. have gone up 19% in the past year. Throughout the U.S., we are now seeing the strongest demand for housing that we have seen in decades. A stable market has 3 to 6 months of inventory, and we are now at 1.5 months worth of inventory throughout the entire country. This again, as you can expect, leads to higher prices. So for some context, let's look at what prices have done state by state over the past year. FHFA reports an average of 17.5% appreciation year over year, with Arizona leading the pack at 27% and our friends down south in Florida at 25.7%. That all makes sense as people were fleeing the cold in these crowded areas for warmer, less populated, and honestly more affordable areas. Over the past 5 years, the national average has been 54.5%. And since 1991, it's been 258%. So, as you can tell from those numbers, owning a home has been a great investment in these recent times.
All right, so you've got to be thinking, when does it end? When is it going to crash? And I don't want to be the one left holding the bag. And it's a great question because realtors don't want to have unhappy clients. But let's look at some of the fundamentals. In the build-up to the last crash, the 2007 recession, one of the huge contributing factors was that anyone who could fog a mirror could get a loan without showing any documentation. The lending standards fell through the floor, increasing demand from people who wouldn't likely be able to qualify for a mortgage today. From 03 to 07, there was around $300 billion in loans to people with credit scores below 620. For the last 10 years, that has decreased by about 85%. So you have to be much more qualified to get a loan today, which leads to fewer defaults. As a result, we have virtually no foreclosures anymore, which is good for everyone. Now, I do have some concerns. All right. First, we have seen the average credit score for mortgages decreasing in the past year. Not dramatically, but a little. So let's keep an eye on that because as standards decrease, risk increases. We're still in a very healthy range though, so don't worry. The second is affordability. And this is very important to understand. Prices should go up when mortgage rates decrease. Interest rates over the past 50 years have averaged between 6 to 8%. Today, they are under 4, but they are rising. Strangely enough, houses are more affordable now than they were all of the 80s, 90s, and 2000s because of these low interest rates and higher incomes. Yes, prices have risen a lot, but take a look at this. If you would expect an average home appreciation of 4% annually, the U.S. actually just caught up to the trend line at the end of 2021. Now the pendulum typically swings too far one way and then the other. I actually think though we could have a little more time to run up on prices before we see a correction or a flattening. Let me put this into context for you so I can land the plane here. All right, the average household income in Fairfax County is $125,000. This is the average debt to income ratio for loans. So let's assume that a family has no debt and is willing to use 40% of their income for a loan. Now we wouldn't advise this, but this is just for illustrations. And let's also consider that they have 20% down payment, which you don't need, and actually you can see in our newsletter for a piece on that, but it makes for round numbers, 20% down. Given these factors, this family, or average Fairfax County household, could afford a $4,000 a month mortgage payment. That's how most people calculate what they can afford. Not the price of the house, but their monthly cash outlay. Now here's the eye opener. If the interest rate is 6% and they can afford $4,000 a month, they can afford a $660,000 home at 6%. We are lower than that. If the interest rate is 4.5% though, it goes to $775,000. At 3.75, which is where we're at right now, it's $875,000. And at 2.5%, which is what we were at a year ago, it's $1 million. All of this is just based on their ability to pay $4,000 a month at different interest rates. When interest rates rise, affordability decreases. And we have had low interest rates for a long time because we have been recovering from the Great Recession, and then we went way down because of COVID. With the economy doing pretty well now, low interest rates lead to overstimulation of the economy and have created inflation. Interest rates need to rise to curb inflation. The government sees that and they are acting on it. However, the government tends to act too late. So what does this mean? Well, if you're a buyer, you have to be thinking about buying for the long term. We think there is still some runway for prices to increase, but then we should see a leveling off of prices or decreases if interest rates rise. But if you're in a home with that low interest rate, you will still be in a great place because your mortgage payment will be lower over time. If you're a seller, it remains an incredible time to sell and cash out. If you have a rental property that you've been thinking of selling, now is a fantastic time to cash out of that. In fact, we even have some options for 1031 exchanges to put that money into alternative real estate investments without paying capital gains, but getting you out of the landlord business. At the end of the day, real estate remains one of the greatest long-term investments. In the short term, anything can happen, but it has rarely had a negative return over a 10-year period. So we want you to have that long-term outlook. Now, the best thing to do would be to set up a personal consultation with your realtor to discuss your needs and create a strategy based on your goals, where you want to be, how long you want to be there, and what you want to spend. And if you don't have a trusted real estate advisor, please call us and we would be happy to serve you. Okay, that's it for this month. If you are delighted by our faces and want to continue to get this amazing material, please subscribe to our channel. And also you can sign up for our newsletter where we'll deliver it right to your inbox. Have a great month. Enjoy the spring, and we'll see you next time.